Syracuse versus Tennessee. Week 1 of the 2025 college football season. I am stoked for this game, man. I think there is so much to look forward to in a matchup like this. We have two teams coming off 10-win seasons, squaring off right off the bat to start the season. This one takes place in Atlanta, so again, you know my thoughts on neutral site games. I'm not a fan. I think it's an absolute shame that week 1, especially a game like this, is a neutral siter. But you know what? It is what it is. This one is in Atlanta at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. It is a noon Eastern kickoff. I got that right. I'm on a different time zone, so I usually mix those up. But this time I'm getting it right. Noon Eastern, 9 a.m. my time, man. So I'm going to wake up and drink a coffee to watch this one. But let's go ahead. Let's dive into the preview and breakdown. Let's start with the line. Tennessee is currently favored minus 13.5. This line's varied a bit. The opening line was 12.5. It shot to 14 on some applications and betting services. It's at 13.5 on DraftKings. So I'm like, you know what? Let's just roll with 13.5. That's where it stands. Now, let's start with Tennessee, who is the favorite by 13.5 points. It's year 5 for Josh Heupel, and it's been an interesting tenure for him. Now, he's 37-15 as a head coach of the Tennessee Volunteers. So it's been a really darn good tenure for Josh Heupel, and last year was a step towards where Tennessee really wants to be. They make it to the college football playoff. Now, of course, it was a letdown against Ohio State. A lot of us expected a lot more out of that team, and so did I. Defensively, we saw how dominant they were all year long against the SEC. Offensively, they did what they needed to do. They ran the ball well. Ohio State shut them down. But that's enough of last year. Let's talk about this season. This was a team that had the number 9 rushing offense last year, friends. But their passing offense was 93rd in pass yards per game. Now, why do I tell you this? The reason I tell you this is because we all know the elephant in the room is that Nico Iamaleava is no longer the quarterback at Tennessee. Whatever your opinion is on it, I'm not even going to get into that. I think it's a long story, but the short and sweet of it, he is no longer there. Now, a lot of people, in my opinion, has really wrote Tennessee off after this one. Like, there were people coming in saying Tennessee could run the table in the SEC. And it's like, as soon as this Nico news broke, I haven't heard a word about the Volunteers. It's like they just fell off the face of the earth. And I'm here to tell you that is completely not true, and it is false. Listen to the stat I just said. I'm going to run this back. They were the number 9 rushing offense in 2024, okay? 225.8 yards per game, all right? They were 93rd in pass yards per game. Nico is a talented quarterback. I'm not taking any shots at him, or this is not a knock on him whatsoever. I mean, I had Nico number 3 in my top 5 preseason Big Ten quarterback rankings. So I think he's extremely talented. He's a great quarterback. But I do not think that Nico Iamaleava is a player or to the level of a quarterback that knocks Tennessee completely off the face of the earth. Now, let me give you some X's and O's as to why I say this. Josh Heupel, when he first really took the reins over at Tennessee, and what we remember most of his offensive scheme, especially when you think about Hendon Hooker and Jalen Hyatt and Brew McCoy and some of those guys, was air raid, pass heavy. Now, obviously, they run a veer and shoot, which was the spread offense being the predecessor to the veer and shoot. Wide splits, wide formations. Tennessee loves to spread you out. They utilize the hash marks, and he utilizes athletes in space. A lot of choice routes. A lot of deep option throws, loads of RPOs. Josh Heupel loves the RPOs, which puts a lot of pressure on the quarterback. But here's the thing, is as teams started to adapt to that and having to play out to those splits, right? Having to essentially say, hey, we have to shade our Will or our Sam backer outside the hash marks in order to at least just cover these choice slant routes and these RPOs. Our safeties have to shade outside. That opens the run box. In between the hash marks is where Tennessee lived last year. Again, 9th in rushing offense. So I say all of this to just say, let's reel it in. I understand Nico is gone, but this Tennessee team was effective running the ball last year, top 10 in the nation. They're going to be good at running the ball this year, and I don't think there's anything to worry about when we get into that defense. You're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. But let's stay with the offense, okay? Tennessee has 10 returning starters in total. Offensively, they really have 3. All right, Chris Brazzell at wide receiver is a big keep for them. He comes back as a returning starter. They bring back Miles Kitselman, tight end. A lot of production last year. He's going to have a bigger season this year. Now, Tennessee doesn't, of course, overly utilize tight ends, but when they do, they're effective, right? And they also bring back Lance Hurd, left tackle. So Tennessee's got a couple returning starters, but the transfer portal is where they really load it up. All right, they bring in left guard Sam Pendleton out of Notre Dame. That's a big get for them. He's going to be a plug-and-play guy. He will start, in my opinion, for this Vols offense. They bring in Wendell Moe Jr. from University of Arizona. I think he will start as well on that offensive line. He's a right guard. So you got your left guard, your right guard. They also bring in Joey Aguilar, quarterback. Now, a lot of people have given their opinions on Joey Aguilar, and the stats say a lot. All right, 3,000 passing yards last year. He comes from Appalachian State with 23 touchdowns, but here's the kicker, 14 interceptions for Aguilar. Now, the reason I saved this for after I gave all the offensive stats is because Josh Heupel has slowly but surely shifted into a run-focused team. He gets his numbers, he spreads you out, he opens the box, and he gets what he wants in the run game. Now, that doesn't mean that Joey Aguilar is not going to be able to, have pressure on him or have to be able to effectively throw the football, but I don't worry too much. I think Tennessee has enough speed on the outsides. I think their run game poses enough of a threat that Syracuse is going to have to shade those backers inside the hash marks. That's going to open up more space out wide for any kind of crossing routes, any mesh concepts, and really any deep choice routes. The biggest thing is Joey Aguilar is going to have to be better at reading coverages, and he's going to be he's really quick decision. Very quick decision making. If the guy is there, it's a hot route or it's a choice route. You got to look at it, read your backer, right? Read your signal, read your cue, and let it go. Don't overthink it. Don't try to do too much in this Josh Heupel offense. Do what your one read design is designed to do, and I think they will be successful. Look, I think this Tennessee offense will not have any problems. We're going to see what some of these transfers do. The running game is going to be a big factor. We'll see what they can do. Let's talk about the defense, which really, in my opinion, is going to actually be the focal point of this team. Now, Tennessee's defense last year was incredible. 6th ranked defense in the nation at the end of the year. 76.8% of drives ended in either a punt, a turnover, or a turnover on downs. They were 3rd in stop percentage last year. This defense was dominant. Okay, friends? Defensive coordinator Tim Banks is a stud. He gets 7 returning starters. This, again, is the focal point of this Tennessee team this season. Let's go over the returning starters that they bring back. They bring back defensive lineman Dominic Bailey and Bryson Eason. Both of those guys were huge last year. Again, the production will only ramp up this year. Fast, big, physical. They will get in the backfield quickly against that Syracuse offensive line that's got a lot of plug-and-play guys as well. All right, they bring back both linebackers, Carter and Teeland. Studs, fast, can cover. That's the big thing with Tennessee is they can cover extremely well at both the secondary level and the linebackers. And when we talk about the secondary, corners Ricky Gibson and Jermon McCoy. Jermon McCoy could be one of the best corners in the country this year. That's huge for their experience and their depth. And they also bring back safety Ander Turrentine. So 7 returning starters on a defense that plays a lot of 4-2-5, multiple different looks. Tim Banks had that unit rolling last year, forced turnovers, got stops. Now, again, at the end of the year, they had that blunder against Ohio State. We know they underperformed, but 7 returning starters on the 6th overall defense in the country last year, I really don't think Tennessee loses a step. Now, let's talk about Syracuse. Fran Brown, friends. To say that it's only year 2 and Fran Brown has already won 10 games is remarkable. I am so high on Fran Brown. It's so funny for me to sit here and say that I don't foresee a coach being somewhere for a very long time, but it not being for him being fired or underperforming. I absolutely could see Fran Brown not being at Syracuse for a long time because he gets another job offer. Now, this year the cards are going to be tough, right? They lose Kyle McCord, they lose Trevor Pena, and they have a brutal schedule this year that, of course, starts week 1 against Tennessee. However, Fran Brown is going to have success. This was the #1 national recruiter in the country in 2023. 24/7 Sports tabbed him with that title, and it was absolutely accurate. He was at Georgia, recruited extremely well. Now, of course, the resources at Georgia are plentiful compared to Syracuse, but that doesn't take away from the fact that he won 10 games in his first year. He has a great eye for talent. Kyle McCord was written off. Everybody thought he was a done deal. What does he do? He comes to Syracuse, #1 passing offense in college football last year for the Orange. And just an incredible job by Fran Brown. I cannot say enough good things about him. And I think even with the cards he has dealt this year that we're going to go through, I still think this is going to be a good team that will play inspired. He is a player's coach. His guys will be ready to go for this game. They don't care about a line. They don't care about a number. He will have them ready to run through a wall, himself included, friends. All right, let's go ahead. Let's dive into this. Jeff Nixon, offensive coordinator, had an incredible year last year with the talent he had. They lose a good bit of it. But they bring back Amari Hatcher, wide receiver. He comes back. They also bring back Demetrius Weatherspoon. Now, they were set to get Mark Petrie back their right guard, but unfortunately, he went ahead and underwent an ACL surgery. He's a scratch. So really 2 returning starters on the number 1 passing offense from last year. What do? They, of course, have to dive in the portal. Let's start at quarterback. Ricky Collins from LSU and Steve Angeli from Notre Dame. Those 2 guys come in. 2 guys that haven't proven quite a lot. Now, we've seen a bit from Angeli. He's had some good moments at Notre Dame, and most recently, the playoff drive that he had, where he was able to take Notre Dame down the field, and I want to say put the ball in the end zone. I'm kind of drawing a blank, but nonetheless, neither of these guys have loads of experience. Not the best portal talent at the quarterback position, but I think it could be enough. Do I think it's going to be as effective as what Kyle McCord was? No. But Steve Angeli has proved that he can absolutely score and he can get stuff done. So I'm not too worried. I do think Angeli will get the start, but having a guy like Ricky Collins is extremely helpful as well. At least they add a little bit of depth and put a little competition, behind that position. Let's talk about wide receivers. Jonte Cook and Tyshawn Russell also come in. So you get a guy from Washington. Jonte Cook's a speedster. He can fly. He can definitely stretch the field deep. A little bit undersized at this position. That's what scares me a little bit when you think about how physical that Tennessee secondary is. Now, Tyshawn Russell comes in from South Carolina, so they have the speed. The biggest question is, can they really stretch the field and beat Tennessee deep? If they want to keep things underneath, my fear again with that is Tennessee's linebackers cover extremely well in the open field. And again, that 4-2-5 scheme defense that Tennessee plays doesn't really let a lot get past them deep. So how well can Syracuse run the football? That's the question mark, and it starts in the trenches with the offensive line. Almost an entirely new offensive line outside of Demetrius Weatherspoon, the returning starter. They bring in TJ Ferguson, Zach Rice, Austin Collins, and Cam Pringle. I think all 4 of those guys are likely going to start. They also bring in a guy from Alabama as well. So I think they had 2 other offensive linemen they bring in. So again, Fran Brown knows where the holes are. He knows the gaps. He's going to try and fill it. It's going to be just a place and hope kind of offensive line. But these guys have experience. They have starts, and they have size. Okay, they're still not going to be to the size that Tennessee is used to seeing on a week-by-week basis, and I think they're going to have their hands more than full with that Tennessee defensive line and the stunts and blitzes that Tim Banks, defense coordinator for the Vols, loves to run. But look, all they have to do is try and establish a run game to at least open the field up a little bit for their team. Yasin Willis and Will Nixon, both Syracuse running backs, those guys have to have a big game, man. They got to be able to run the ball and establish that early. We'll see if they can do it. Tennessee's going to pin their ears back, and they like that team is coming, man. I'm telling you, that team's coming. Now, this was a defense that was 96th in points per game last year, right? So they got to be better, flat out. It's got to be better. Elijah Robinson, Syracuse defense coordinator, man, he's going to have to get this unit figured out because Tennessee is going to want to run the football, and that was truly a kryptonite for this team when you look at last year statistically. Again, 10 wins, they got it done, but defensively was a kryptonite for them, so they're going to have to fix that. Returners, they get Chase Simmons on the defensive linebacker. They get linebacker Derek McDonald and safeties, Grant and Chestnut back. All right, so a little bit of production, but again, when you think 96th in points per game allowed last year, you're not really too impressed with, okay, hey, they returned this. Now, they did go in the portal, and they grabbed some guys. Middle linebacker Gary Bryant from South Dakota will probably start. He's a faster guy, 6'1", 230. That's what they need. They need speed. All right, that is undoubtedly what you have to be able to hang with a team like Tennessee offensively. They bring in defensive end David Reese, super experienced guy. I think it's like the 7th or 8th year for David Reese in college football. If you go back and just watch the tape from his time at Florida, when he was down in Gainesville, he was a beast. He's also fast. He's physical. He's more, again, 3-4 down, defensive lineman, 4-3 stand-up backer. He can kind of play at both. I think he shifted more towards a defensive end as he's moved later into his college career. Like I said, I think year 7. And lastly, they bring in Chris Thomas Jr., who I think will probably start on that defensive line as well. He comes from Marshall. The key for Syracuse in this game is find an identity on offense early. If you can at least run the ball and take a little bit of pressure off of the quarterback situation, if you can let Steve Angeli breathe for a second, and if they can block up front, the pass pro is going to have to find a way to stop the stunts, communicate extremely well. Again, if Tennessee comes out in that 4-2-5, how can you take advantage of the run game, take advantage of the numbers in the box, but still utilize the pass game to the best of your advantage without having to take the deep shot? On the defensive side of the ball for Syracuse, they are going to have to cover with linebackers. Tennessee loves to run the crossing routes, RPOs. These linebackers are going to have to think pass first. But if Tennessee wants to pound the rock, which I think they will, then you got to find out, hey, how hard are we committing to the run, or what splits are we playing when Tennessee lines up their two guys all the way on the boundaries, right? So a lot to think about for Syracuse. As for Tennessee, the game plan, man, run the rock. Just run the rock. Spread your guys out, make them shade out the hash marks, and just pound the football. You're bigger, you should be faster, and you should be stronger. Let it shine. If you need to throw the ball, don't put too much pressure on Joey Aguilar. Don't let him think. Let the run game move the football. Complement it with the pass game when it needs to happen. On the defensive side of the ball, pin your ears back and do what you did last year. This is an entirely new offense, almost an entirely new offensive line for Syracuse. Just let loose and have fun. Tennessee is the favorite for a reason. I still, like I said, I'm big on Fran Brown, and I'm big on what he's going to have these boys ready to do come this Saturday game. So that's all I got for you guys. I appreciate every single one of you for tuning in and all your support. Let me know what you think, who wins this game, how it goes down, all that good stuff. Again, appreciate all of you, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you, guys.